Right. Oh, Brady. It's not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. And I'm going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to happen, but I am going to get it done before the beginning of the new year, which starts September 10th against those Dallas Cowboys. And we're at the 64th season in the history of the New York Giants. We're almost 2/3 of the way there. Wow. With the 1988/Altoon season. More on that in a little bit. Just kind of rip your heart right out. I mean, this season and the 89 season, boy, tough ones. Bill Parcells had coach rate seasons. Now, basically, you can break that up into like 2 4-season segments, shall we say, right? 1983, and they were like almost identical, right? Identical. 1983 was his first season. The Giants had a losing record. All right, so we'll go for the first 4, right? 1983, first season, losing record. 1984, they got better. They keep getting better. 9-7 winning record. They went to the playoffs. Third season, they got better. 10-6 went to the playoffs. Fourth season, 14-2 playoff Super Bowl. The second 4-year segment, right, would be 1987, right, losing record. So in 83, losing record. 87, losing record. 88, they had a winning record, 10-6. 84, winning record, 9-7. They went to the playoffs. Thanks to Altoon and the Jets, they didn't make the playoffs in 88. However, that would pretty much be the only difference. So in 89, their third season, they went from 10-6 to 12-4, made the playoffs. Third season here, right? From 84, they were 9-7. 85, they went to 10-6, went to the playoffs. So each year they kept getting better. So then in 1989, they were 12-4 playoffs. 1990, they went 13-3 playoffs, Super Bowl. Same thing here. 85, they were 10-6 playoffs. 86, 14-2 playoff Super Bowl. So basically, the first year of each of those 4-year segments, losing record, and they just kept getting better. And at the culmination of the 4th season, right, Super Bowl. But each year they kept the record, just kept getting better. So 87, that was the strike shortened season, the scab season, all that stuff. Giants were 6-9. Which is, demoralizing to say the least, especially when you were 14-2 and you won the Super Bowl the year before. However, turned things around in 88. We were, actually we were 10-5 going into the last game of the season, and the Giants didn't even need to win the last game. A couple other things would have happened. They still would have made the playoffs, but it was just not meant to be. So we'll go over that as we go along. But let's see here. Wikipedia. What do they have on a 1988 New York Giants season? 1988 New York Giants season was the franchise's 64th season in the history of the National Football League. That was a 64th season for the Giants, a 69th season in the history of the NFL, period, because the NFL started in 1920, Giants started in 1925. The team would finish with 10 wins and 6 losses. But a loss to the Jets in the season finale would keep them out of the playoffs for the second consecutive season. The Giants would finish second behind the Philadelphia Eagles in the division, losing the conference tiebreaker to the Los Angeles Rams for the final wild cards. I'm going to go over that as we go along. Season was marked early by the suspension for substance abuse of star linebacker Lawrence Taylor by the NFL for the first 4 games of the season. He only played 12 games, but in those 12 games, he had 15.5 sacks. So if he played the whole season, right? I mean, it's his own stupidity. I mean, what it is Lawrence Taylor is unfortunately there's certain athletes like this. They're phenomenal on the field. Out in real life, they're totally lost. Absolutely, totally lost. That would be Lawrence Taylor. If you look at his life, what things he's done off the field, he's totally clueless, absolutely totally clueless. It's a shame. Because what he did for the sport and all of that and everything. He could have been so much more, but he just is what it is. But I said, I'm not going to go over different athletes and all, but there are athletes who on the field were just absolutely unbelievable, breathtaking and all that and everything, but that off the field, they just don't know how to exist. So it is what it is. But I said, but if he had played those other 4 games, he might have had another 20 sack season. He was that good. Following, and there's also the sad too, because following the end of the season, the Giants would see 2 of their longtime defensive stalwarts. Yeah, tough to see these guys go. But George Martin and future Hall of Famer inside linebacker Harry Carson announced their retirement. But it was really classy because George Martin came in 75. What the heck was he? Out of Oregon, but he was like an 8th round or 11th round selection. And the career he had from 75 to 88. Wow, what a career. And then, of course, Harry Carson drafted in 1976 and the future Hall of Famer from 76 to 88. Those guys saw the highs and saw the lows. It was just a shame they couldn't hang around another 2 seasons. It's tough. It is what it is. But they would have got themselves possibly another ring, right? But at least they went out they both went out together. 2 class act human beings, class for the organization, faces for the organization. We were so lucky that we had those guys with Giants. Really, 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 really were. Wow, we're very lucky for those 2. But let's go over the preseason. Once again, the Giants had a nice little preseason once again. They were 3-1. I think they were 3-1 the year before that, too. Respectable. Of course, once again, it's only preseason. But they opened up preseason on August 6th at Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. And they would open up a can of whoop butt on the Packers by winning 34-3. The following week against the Jets, August 13th, at obviously Giants Stadium, because they both played there. But the Giants would win 24-21. Following week on August 20th, at home at the Giants Stadium against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Giants would win 28-17. So now they're 3-0. But the final game in the preseason, Friday, August 26th, they played in Cleveland Stadium against the Browns. They would lose 17-13. So, that, are respectable. Obviously, it's just preseason, but they were 3-1. So let's go to their draft. Now, their draft was not, they added a couple key pieces here. Okay, let me pop this up here. A couple key pieces. However, it was not, shall we say, chock full. All right, where they just started plugging all kinds of holes or got great depth pieces or nothing like that. No, but their first 2 picks were simply marvelous, shall we say. Now, the one problem they did have, which they did address here in the draft, okay, and it took a year or so because these guys were young. Also, Doug Riesenberg, they drafted him in the year before, 1987. Okay, so he was a part of the puzzle to their offensive line. But once again, he was young, right? So I guess they needed maybe a few years to start getting acclimated and working together and all. But by the time 1990 rolled around, they were a pretty decently well-oiled machine. But their offensive line was a weakness in 1988, just to say the least. Okay, so let's go here. Looks for the draft. All right, so round 1 of the 1988 draft. The Giants picked 10th because they were 6-9 in 1987. They took Eric Moore. Very good pick. Okay, Eric Moore played from 88 to 95. He was a guard. Let's see here. Now, he played from 88 to 93 with the Giants. 94, he was with Cincinnati. 95, he was with the Browns and the Dolphins. So, but I mean, nice 6-year career with the Giants. It looks like he played right guard and a little left tackle, right? So showed some versatility there. But, a good solid pick. We're not talking an all-pro. We made no all-pros. He's not a Hall of Famer and none of this, but a solid pick, okay? He played quite a bit. What did he play? He played in 75 games for the Giants. He had 68 starts. So a very solid pick for the Giants. All right, second round. The Giants took John Jumbo Elliott. Now, he did not, once again, a very solid pick. Let's take a look here. All right, Jumbo. Talking about lengthy careers, 1988 to 2002, 3 different decades he played in. Wow. Of course, they weren't all with the Giants. From 96 to 2002 was with the Jets. But he played in a bunch of games. 8 years career with the Giants. He played in 112 games, had 98 starts. Very, once again, a solid. He went to one Pro Bowl, 1993. That was it. So in his 14-year career, right, one Pro Bowl. But, once again, a solid pick, okay? Between the two of them, Moore and Jumbo, they had nice, lengthy little careers with the Giants. They certainly helped the Giants out quite a bit. So it was a good pick. But now after this, it starts getting a little, nothing really. Their third round, I just want to make sure I don't miss any trades. They took, let's see here, third round, their third pick, they took Sheldon White. Now, he played 6 seasons, defensive back. 2 of them were with the Giants. He didn't even make it to the 1990 Super Bowl team. So his final 4 seasons were with the Lions. Now, he played, he must have been pretty much a special teamer, I guess, because in his 2 seasons with the Giants, Sheldon White, he played in all 32 games, right? But he only had 6 starts, right? But and I'll tell you what, impressive enough. In those 6 starts, he also had 6 interceptions. So got to give the man some credit there. But in the third round, you would certainly like to get a little more longevity out of that than just 2 seasons. I want to make sure I don't miss any trades here or anything like that. So in the 4th round, the Giants took Ricky Shaw, a linebacker. He played 3 seasons. I know he was there for 88 and 89. Was he in there in 90? No. He played, my bad. He was there in 88. Halfway through the 89 season, he went to the Eagles. And then he finishes up his career in 1990 with the Eagles. So, once it was just a 4th round pick. But, once again, he only played a year and a half with the Giants. So, not a phenomenal pick. All right, round 5. The Giants took John Carter. Oh, yeah. I'm not lying. Defensive tackle. He played 1 season. So then the next 2 guys they picked never even made it in the pros. So we'll go to round 6. There was a trade. Well, let's see. Round 6, they took Dave Houle, or Houle. He never even made it in the pros. Then, let's see here. Round 7, Giants took Mike Perez. He never even made it in the pros. Then in round 7, the Giants traded Jerome Sally to the Colts for their pick. I don't know why, because I once again, I don't know why. They took Dante Whitaker, who's a tight end. And I don't even think he even played for the Giants. I don't recall. No, he played with Kansas City, Minnesota, and Chicago. So they traded away Jerome Sally for somebody who never even played for him. Very bad. Very, very bad pick. So, all right. So round 8. Let's see here. Round 8. The New York Giants selected Sammy Lilly. There you go. Oh, yeah. I'm not lying. Sammy Lilly, defensive back. Let's see here. How long was he with the Giants? I don't even know. He didn't even play for the Giants. Played for Philadelphia, San Diego, and the Rams. So, all right. Let's see here. Then, okay, round 9. The New York Giants. Okay, the Giants traded their 9th round pick to the Raiders. So they didn't have a 9th round pick. Round 10, the Giants, round 10, they had Eric Hickerson. They took Eric Hickerson, who was a defensive back. He didn't even make it. They also took Steve Wilkes, who was a tight end in the 10th round. Who did they? Let's see here. They traded with the Chargers, and they took Steve Wilkes because they traded Bobby Lee Johnson to the Chargers, and they took Steve Wilkes, who never even made it. And let's see, round 11, the Giants took Greg Harris. Did he even make it? No, he didn't make it either. Wide receiver, he never played in the NFL. And I know the Giants had another, I think it was another trade the Giants had here somewhere. Okay. Round 12, final round, the Giants took David Futrell. He was a defensive tackle. He never played. And then they made a trade with the Vikings. They traded Chris Foote to the Vikings. And they took Brendan McCormick, who I don't think, another defensive tackle, never made it in the pros. So I mean, I said the Giants, I mean, their defense, not their defense, I do apologize. Their draft was not a super spectacular one. However, the top 2 picks, helped the offensive line for, multiple years. So, well, I mean, as I said, they took Doug Riesenberg in 87. They got Jumbo Elliott and Eric Moore. And then, of course, they had Bart Oates. But in 89, they went up. So 87, 88, and 89, they really helped bolster their offensive line. They took Brian Williams, a center, in 1989 with their first round pick, if I could talk, in 89. Okay. But he did not start playing center until after Bart Oates left. I think after, when would that be? Was it the 92 season? I think Oates left. So, I mean, Brian Williams, so the Giants really started bolstering their offensive line. 87, they got Riesenberg. 88, they took Eric Moore and Jumbo Elliott. And 89, they took Brian Williams. So, I mean, they really started helping their offensive line quite a bit. But to be honest, their offensive line was a weakness in 1988. And that was one of the things that really hurt them quite a bit. So let's go. Let's see here. All right, so we went over the preseason. We went over that. Let's look at some of the it's the roster. Let's go over some of their stats. I mean, I said what did they score? They scored average 22.4 points per game. Not bad at all. They only gave up 19 points per game. So not bad at all. Okay. Let's see. Phil Simms started all 15 games, right? He was 9-6, had 21 touchdown passes, only 11 interceptions. Not bad. Actually, Simms, Hostetler, and Jeff Rutledge, they all got in there. As a team, they completed 55% of their passes. They had 22 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. On defense, they gave up 23 touchdown passes and 15 interceptions, right? But their problem here, I mean, I'm going to go over a couple of their problems, right? One of them here, I mean, you had Otis Anderson, Joe Morris. Right now, Joe Morris, he had been used a lot, and he was small, and he was just going to start to wear down. He ran the ball 307 times for 1,083 yards, averaged 3.5 yards a carry. Otis Anderson, right? He averaged 3.2 yards a carry. Maurice Carthon, 3.2 yards a carry. George Adams, their number 1 first-round pick in 85, 2.6 yards a carry. I mean, Lee Roussan, well, he only ran the ball one time. 1 yard a carry. I mean, they're as a team, they averaged 3.4 yards a carry. I mean, not good at all. They had 15 rushing touchdowns, and their defense only gave up 8. Not bad, okay? Their defense get 3.9 yards a carry, okay? But as I said, the Giants, Parcells likes to run the ball, right? And they just 3.4 yards to carry. You're not getting much done there. I mean, it was a tough season. But let me also point out another thing that really hampered the Giants was the offensive line. I mean, on defense, the Giants got 52 sacks. Pretty good. As I said, if Lawrence Taylor didn't miss the first 4 games, he probably would have had a few more sacks too. So the Giants might have had 55 or 56 sacks or so if Lawrence Taylor did not get suspended the first 4 games. But their problem was they gave up 60 sacks, to their quarterbacks, and that's not good. And I said between the sacks and one of the big things is I'm going to go over is also in the final game of the season against the Jets. It was their offensive line and also their kickers. Now, where we at? Raul Allegre played the first 6 games, and then he got hurt. Paul McFadden came in and finished and played the final 10 games. In his final 10 games, Paul McFadden only missed 3 field goals. So it wasn't, not too bad, right? I mean, he didn't have a bunch of field goal attempts, but he only missed 3 field goals in the 10 games. One of the problems was, once again, he missed 2 field goals in the first half of the game against the Jets, and the Giants wound up losing by 6 points. So let's start going over some of those games here. Once again, the Giants, there's a couple of these games, Mike. They opened up the season. Let's see, Monday night. Okay, they beat the Washington Redskins 27-20 at home. Right? I mean, the Redskins are good. Redskins won the Super Bowl the year before, 1987. So the Redskins are good. So the Giants won at home 27-20. Very, very impressive. The next week, this one still haunts me to the day until the day I die. The Giants were beating the 49ers at home. Giants were up 17-13. It was about a minute to go in the game, maybe even less than that. 49ers had to score a touchdown. They couldn't kick a field goal. They had to score a touchdown. So Joe Montana drops back to pass and heaves the ball down the right sideline. Jerry Rice, I can't remember who the defender was, beat the defender. Catches the ball in stride, 78 yards for a touchdown. They had the ball on the 22-yard line. They had to go 78 yards, and the Giants pretty much did a nice job of controlling their offense. Only gave up 13 points all game. This, that, and the other thing. They had to score a touchdown. They had about a minute to go, and they gave up 78 yards on one play. Unbelievable. Just a straight up freaking gut punch. I mean, the one pass play. I mean, if they just let them dink and dunk it down the field, they would have held on. They would have won. They would have won. They would have gone to the playoffs. But all right, so then they went on the road. They beat the Dallas Cowboys 12-10. Okay, so the Giants are 2-1. Then the Rams. Then the Giants. The Rams came to town. The Rams killed the Giants 45-31. So now the Giants are 2-2. Basically, they're just back and forth over the first 6 games. Game number 5, they would beat the Redskins once again, 24-23. So now the Giants are 3-2. However, in Game 6, again, the Giants could not beat the Eagles. Game 6, the Eagles came. The Giants played in Philadelphia and they lost 24-13. So now the Giants are 3-3. Then finally, the Giants would start taking a little command of things here. Right, Game 7, they would beat the Lions at home 30-10. Then week 8, they went on the road to play the Falcons. They would beat the Falcons 23-16. So now the Giants are 5-3. Week 9, they played the Detroit Lions and it would win in overtime 13-10. So now the Giants are 6-3. Then the Giants would play the Cowboys once again, and they would beat them. So one of the few times in the history of the New York Giants, the Giants actually swept the Dallas Cowboys. They beat them 29-21 at home. So now the Giants are 7-3. All right, and then the Giants would lose a couple of games. They would lose to the Phoenix Cardinals 24-17. So now they're 7-4. Then the Giants would lose another tough one to the Eagles in overtime. The Giants actually blocked a field goal try. However, the ball bounced up to Clyde Ximines. They're in overtime. The Eagles tried to kick a field goal. It got blocked. Ball bounced. I believe it got bounced to Clyde Ximines. Let me see. Because I think he picked it up and ran it. Clyde Ximines, blocked field goal return. He picked it up. Ball bounced him at the 15-yard line. He picked it up, ran it in for 15 yards for the game-winning touchdown in overtime. So once again, a bad bounce. If the ball bounced to the Giants, maybe the Giants wind up winning a game. Maybe it bounces to the Giant player. The Giant player gets it, runs it back for a game-winning touchdown. But it bounced to Clyde Ximines. He picks it up and runs it in 15 yards for the Eagles' game-winning touchdown. So now the Giants are 7-5. Okay, then comes the pain game. If you ever remember the pain game with Lawrence Taylor, when he goes in there in New Orleans, and it was on a Sunday night game, and he gets it. He has to have his shoulder in a harness because he was in so much pain. Well, he wound up with a couple of sacks and a bunch of fumbles, caused some fumbles and all that. The defense caused 5 turnovers for the Saints. The Giants would wind up winning 13-12. So now the Giants are 8-5. So then the Giants would face the Phoenix Cardinals once again, and they would put a little revenge on the Cardinals. The Phoenix Cardinals will come to town. The Giants would win 44-7. So now the Giants are 9-5. Then the Kansas City Chiefs would come to town. All right. And the Giants would beat the Chiefs 28-12. And once again, the Chiefs have never beaten the Giants in New York / New Jersey. The Giants are 7-0 against the Kansas City Chiefs at home. So now the Giants are 10-5. They beat the Chiefs 28-12. So now what it comes down to is week 16. The Giants are on the road against the Jets, but they both play in Giants Stadium. But if the Giants win or tie, they win the division, they're in the playoffs. If the Giants lose, and if the Eagles lose, Giants are in the playoffs. If the Giants lose and the Rams lose on the road to the 49ers, who would go on and win the Super Bowl, the Giants are in the playoffs. So the Cowboys were winning. So if the Eagles lost, if the Eagles lost to the Cowboys in Dallas, the Giants were in the playoffs. But once again, it was just not meant to be. The Cowboys, where were they? The Cowboys were 3-13. They were not a good team at all that season. They were 3-13. I think that was Tom Landry's last season because 89 was Jimmy Johnson came in and they were 1-15. So they got even worse. But this was Tom Landry's final season. His final game was against Buddy Ryan. They lost 23-7. The Cowboys were actually up. Herschel Walker put the Cowboys up 7-0 in the first quarter. And that was it for the scoring for the Cowboys. The Eagles would score the next 23 points and win 23-7. So now the Eagles won. Okay. So no matter what, even if the Giants still won the game against the Jets, Giants still in the playoffs. So if the Giants tied, they were in the playoffs. Or if the Rams on the road against the 49ers, I said, who the 49ers will go on into the Super Bowl and beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl champion 49ers at home playing against the Rams. If the 49ers would have beaten the Rams, Giants make the playoffs. Didn't happen. The Rams won 38-16. At one point, it was 38-13. Mike Kofor kicked a 36-yard field goal toward the end there to make it 38-16. But, it was just unbelievable. Joe Montana and Steve Young at home. It's like they got sacked 9 times. The Rams sacked them 9 times. The 49ers didn't even sack Jim Everett 1 time. Just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So, so the Rams went in and took care of business. So, Just I don't know. It just hard to. I just couldn't. I seen the score was flashing on the TV, and I'm like, because I mean the 49ers were a decent team that year, but I mean to lose at home 38-16 to the Rams. I mean it was just unbelievable. It just so even if the Rams won and even though the Eagles won, the Giants still would have made the playoffs had they beaten the New York Jets. But once again, it was not meant to be. The Eagles went. The Jets were up 13-0. The Giants would score a touchdown just before the end of the half to make it 13-7. I guess it was early in the third quarter. The Giants forced a punt. Yeah, I think it was the first possession that the Jets had. They punted. Phil McConkey fumbles the punt. The Jets recover the ball like around the 10-yard line of the Giants. A play or two later, I think was it Freeman McNeil? Yeah, runs it in from 6 yards out, gives the Jets basically pretty much their only touchdown of the second half until 30 seconds left to go in the game. Right? So the Jets' only touchdown in the second half, except for the most part, was from a Phil McConkey fumble, punt, and the Jets recovered around like the 10-yard line. But in the first half, Phil Simms was sacked 6 times. 6 times. He was sacked 8 times for the game. And once again, the Giants' offensive line, was a weakness. I said he got sacked 6 times in the first half. 2 of those sacks occurred, I think, on back-to-back plays, and Paul McFadden, the Giants kicker, tried like a 49-yard field goal, I believe it was, somewhere around there, and he was short. But one of the reasons why he was short was like the 2 plays before that, Phil Simms, like I think on back-to-back plays, got sacked. He lost like 10 yards or 15 yards on those sacks. Had he not been sacked, the offensive line did a better blocking. Had he not been sacked, Paul McFadden's field goal probably would have gone through. Would have gave the Giants 3 more points. Earlier in the half, I think it was in the first quarter, Paul McFadden missed like a 30-something yard field goal. He kicked it, and I'm not sure if the wind took it or what, but it was a short field goal. He pulled it to the left. Giants could have had another 3 points there. So those 3 points there and the other 3 points on the other field goal that he missed because of the 2 sacks could have been 6 points for the Giants. The Giants lost 27-21. And I said, and once again, I said the Phil McConkey, if he didn't fumble the punt and the Jets recovered the ball, that's probably another 7 points you can take off the board for the Jets. But anyway, the Giants were down 20-7. They wound up fighting their way back. Stephen Baker, the touchdown maker, scored on a 9-yard pass from Phil Simms in the third quarter to make it 20-14. Then Lionel Manuel had a 9-yard touchdown pass from Phil Simms to put the Giants up 21-20. It was a tough game, tough game. The Jets came to play. The Jets, I think, were 7-1, so they wanted to win to have a winning record. They were out of the playoffs, but they were a decent team, so they wanted to. They obviously wanted to win, and the Giants, pretty much, had the lead, and then the Jets got the ball back with a few minutes left to go, and they needed a field goal, basically, to win the game. So instead of a field goal, they marched down the field, and they got down around like the 5-yard line or so. There was like 40 seconds to go in the game. And instead of just running the ball, and just setting up maybe the game-winning field goal, right? Ken O'Brien dropped back the pass, and he threw the ball on the left-hand side of the end zone. And Altoon was there, caught the ball, and scored a touchdown to make it 27-21. And just it's one of those things. It was just, I'm sure obviously the Giants had a few lucky bounces go their way, of course, during the season. But, the game against the 49ers where they gave up a 78-yard touchdown pass with like about a minute to go in the game. If they just forced the 49ers to try to march down the field, the 49ers had to score a touchdown. Pretty much the only way they could have scored a touchdown was with a long bomb. And they got one of the best, if not the best wide receiver of all time running around on the field out there. Don't you think you want to maybe give some extra coverage or something? So just straight down the sideline, catches it from Joe Montana, 78 yards, touchdown. Giants lose. What a unbelievable. I mean, I said then the loss in overtime to the Eagles. This loss here with 30-something seconds left to go against the Jets. Altoon just tough. And I said not only with that, the Giants still could have made the playoffs if if the Eagles lost. But I mean, you're asking you're asking the Eagles to lose to a 3-13 Cowboys team, right? And but I said, but then also the fact that the Rams in the final game of the season went into San Francisco and beat the eventual Super Bowl champion 49ers 38-16. That was a tough one to swallow as well, too. So the combination of, just the Giants just fell a little bit short. However, they were improved in 1989, get knocked out early in the playoffs. Good old Flipper Anderson. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But then, of course, everything would culminate in 1990 with our second Super Bowl victory. So this was a tough one, 1988. But let's go over the 1988 season. What does Wikipedia say here? The 1988 NFL season was a 69 regular season in the history of the National Football League. The Cardinals relocated from St. Louis, Missouri to Phoenix, Arizona, area becoming the Phoenix Cardinals, but remained in the NFC East division. The playoff races came down to the regular season's final week, with the Seattle Seahawks winning the AFC West by 1 game and the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers winning their respective divisions in a 5-way tie. Wow. 5-way tie with the Saints, the Giants, and the Rams. 1988 marked the final season for the legendary head coaches Tom Landry. As I said, his final game of his career was a 23-7 loss at home to the Eagles. And Bill Walsh, he won the Super Bowl, which would be his third Super Bowl win. They won, was it 20-16 against Cincinnati, and he rode off into the sunset, right, as a Super Bowl champion. And as well as the final full year for Commissioner Pete Rozelle. The season ended with the Super Bowl 22 when San Francisco defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 20-16 at Joe Robbie Stadium in Florida. So let's go over here. All right, so in the AFC, the Bills won with a record of 12-4, the AFC East. AFC Central, the Bengals won with a record of 12-4. Now, the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Oilers were both 10-6. They were the 2 wild card teams. The Seattle Seahawks, with a record of 9-7, won the AFC West. So in the playoff, Houston would beat Cleveland 24-23, sending Houston to the divisional round. In the divisional round, Buffalo beat Houston 17-10, and Cincinnati beat Seattle 21-13, setting up a championship game between Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Cincinnati would win 21-10, sending them to the Super Bowl. Then, in the NFC West, the Eagles had an identical record with the Giants, but the Giants lost twice to the Eagles. The Giants lost out on the tiebreakers to the Eagles. So the Eagles, with a record of 10-6, won the East. Now the Giants got knocked out because there were 2 wild card teams. The Rams had a record of 10-6, but the Rams also beat the Giants. So I guess they had the head-to-head on the Giants. The other wild card team was the Vikings. They had a record of 11-5. So in the NFC East, the Eagles came out. In the NFC Central, the Bears won with a record of 12-4. The Vikings won with got the wild card with a record of 11-5. In the NFC West, the 49ers won with a record of 10-6, and the Rams won the other wild card with the record of 10-6. The New Orleans Saints also had a record of 10-6 too, but they were knocked out of the tiebreaker as well. So the Giants lost out on a tiebreaker with a record of 10-6, and the New Orleans Saints. The Rams earned the number 2 NFC wild card based on better conference records. Their conference record was 8-4. The Giants were 9-5, and the Saints were 6-6. So the Giants won more games in the conference. They were 9-5, but their winning percentage was .642. The Rams won only 8 games, but they were 8-4. Their winning percentage was .867. So .867 obviously trumps .642. So by 0.025 percentage points, the Giants got knocked out of the playoffs. So in the NFC playoffs, the wild card game, the Minnesota Vikings beat the Rams 28-17. Second round, the 49ers would beat Minnesota 34-9, and the Chicago Bears beat the Philadelphia Eagles 20-12. That was the Fog Bowl. I don't know if you remember that. The Eagles put on had a bunch of yards. They moved up and down the field almost all game long. They just had a hard time scoring. But it was the Fog Bowl. Very, very intriguing game, to say the least. So the Bears won 20-12, sending the 49ers and the Bears into the championship game. At Soldier Field, the 49ers would win 28-3, sending the 49ers to the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. And it wound up being a decent Super Bowl. Unfortunately, was it Jim Crumry? Whatever, I can't remember his first name is. Crumry broke his leg. Unfortunately, he was like the best player on defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. He wound up his leg was like flapping around. You can see he was trying to make a tackle or something like that. His leg got broken. You can see his one leg, bottom of his leg, was kind of flopping around after he broke it. Really, really horrible. Hurt the Bengals defense for the rest of the game. However, I mean the Bengals somehow, I mean they got outgained big time in this Super Bowl here. Total yards. Where are we at here? Total. The 49ers had 454 yards. The Bengals had 229. So the Bengals, the 49ers basically doubled the Bengals. 49ers doubled 454 to 229, the total yards. But somehow the Bengals actually had a 16-13 lead with about a couple minutes to go in the game. The Bengals kicked a 40-yard field goal with 3:20 left to go in the game to put them up 16-13. The only touchdown the Bengals scored all game long was Stanford Jennings had a 93-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to put them up with 34 seconds left to go in the third quarter. Kofor kicked a field goal for the 49ers to tie the game up at 6-6. So his ensuing kickoff, Stanford Jennings ran it back 93 yards for a touchdown to put the Bengals back up top 13-6. Then Jerry Rice caught a 14-yard touchdown pass from Joe Montana to tie the score 13-13 with 14 minutes to go in the game. So, it was a tough game the rest of the way. Then with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left to go, the Bengals kicked the field goal to go up 16-13. As I said, to mind you, so I mean, the Bengals offense hadn't scored a touchdown all game. They kicked 3 field goals, pretty much. So with 3 minutes and about 20 seconds to go, the 49ers got the ball, and they basically just needed at least a field goal to tie it up to send it into overtime. Well, I mean, of course, they're going for blood. They're going for the jugular. They're not going for a field goal. They're going for the win, right? So they got the ball down deep, and they methodically marched the ball down the field. And with 34 seconds left to go in the game, Joe Montana hit John Taylor on a 10-yard touchdown pass, pretty much like over the middle. And Kofor kicked the extra point, and the 49ers won 20-16. So it was, tough. I mean, it was a good, exciting game. A good, exciting finish. But, once again, the 49ers, there was their third Super Bowl victory. It would be their third of 4 Super Bowl victories in the 80s. So they would win the following season, too, against the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, once again, would make it to the Super Bowl in 1989, but they would lose 55-10. So, I mean, it was that was a straight up massacre, absolute massacre, horrible game. But the Super Bowl after the 88 season was very entertaining, and I said that with about 30 seconds left to go in the game, the San Francisco 49ers pulled it out 20-16. So once again, the Giants, their 88 season was just, I mean, they had chances, it's just the ball bounced the wrong way a couple times for them. Things did not go well for them. They had some chances once again in the final game against the Jets, Paul McFadden missed a short field goal. He missed another long field goal. It was just short because the two plays before that, I think Phil Simms got sacked. It might have been back-to-back plays. It took him almost out of field goal range. Had he not got sacked on both plays, McFadden's field goal might have been good. Phil McConkey fumbles a punt early in the third quarter. That gives the Jets they went from 13 points up to 20 because he fumbled the punt. The Jets recovered at the 10-yard line, right around there. 2 plays later or so, the Jets scored a touchdown. Yeah. Then when the Giants finally got ahead 21-20 with a couple minutes to go, all they had to do was stop the Jets because the Jets hadn't scored the whole second half. Hadn't scored at all, right? Except for that 10-yard drive. So all they had to do was hold the Jets. And the Jets had a good kickoff return, which set them up in kind of a short field. They had a good kickoff return because the Giants went ahead 21-20. Jets had a good kickoff return, gave them a little short field. The Giants still had a chance to stop them, just couldn't do it. And with like 30-something seconds left to go, Ken O'Brien hits Altoona in the corner of the end zone. 27-21, Giants lose. But I said once again, the Giants still had a chance to get in the playoffs, but the Eagles beat the Cowboys, and somehow the Rams on the road whooped up on the eventual Super Bowl champion 49ers and beat them 38-16 to officially knock the Giants out of the playoffs. So, but the 87-88, tough seasons, but we do know that in 1989 the Giants would get back to the playoffs. Their record in 89 would be better than it was in 88, and then of course we do know in 1990. Giants would get back to the Super Bowl and get their second Super Bowl ring. So better times were ahead for the Giants. So that pretty much wraps up the 1988 season, the 1988/Altoon season. I'll be back again tomorrow with the 1989 season, which just happened to be the 65th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.